There we go.
There should also be a little pop-up that appears that says started recording or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there now, but it hadn't done that, so we're good now. So, okay, we're just gonna start.
I hear robots.
What?
I heard robots.
I don't hear any robots.
Me neither.
Roll with it.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, special E3 2014 edition. I am Julian, and I am joined as always by Patrick.
What's going on?
And Angelo.
Hi.
And we're here to talk E3. Apologies right away because this episode is going to be going up as soon as we're done recording with minimal editing or fancy stuff. So no Statham sightings or probably not very much music, and you'll probably hear a little bit of how the hot dogs are made because this is just going to be, as the old slogan for WWF Raw when it started in 1993, this is going to be uncut, uncensored, and uncooked.
So, Julian, are you saying this is going to be some raw, off the cusp, on the hip kind of shit?
Sure.
What?
What is, it's E3. And, we did our... What?
I was going to say you're really settling in over there, aren't you, Patrick? Into Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
That was the traditional Chicago accent, I believe.
I don't know about that.
That was my first attempt at Ali G.
Oh, is that what that was?
Secretly.
Very secretly.
Super stealth. You'll never guess.
It's a secret to everybody. No, but, you know, we in our last episode, we did our E3 predictions show, and I would say that, you know, after the first day of press conference, well, like, you know, I mean, this episode we're going to talk about the first day of press conferences. We're going to keep, like, Nintendo and some of the third party for our next episode. We're going to do a second one of these, but I think it's safe to say that we were pretty accurate in our reality check predictions. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of us got any of our pie in the sky stuff.
No.
Like, nowhere close to it. And I would say...
Man.
It's... Okay, so, like, you know, E3, like, it's a big time for me. Like, I don't celebrate Christmas. I'm not a sports guy, so I don't watch, like, the Super Bowl. So, like, E3 is, like, all of that wrapped into one for me. Like, this is, like, my favorite week of the year. And even bad years, I'm still pretty excited about it. But I don't know. It was weird because, like, when we recorded our last episode, I was not feeling it. And then I started to get really excited about, like, 3 days before the show. Mm-hmm. And then yesterday I got a whole lot less excited.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like...
I was actually more excited, but maybe I was, like, more depressed about it than you. I was not, like, thinking that anything new was going to be there. I thought everything was going to be cookie cutter, like, sequels and stuff. And I thought we got a good amount of, you know, new IPs and stuff like that.
Maybe, but I guess it's because maybe you and I differ so much as far as, like, what we're looking for. And honestly, like, I think the theme of this is going to be, I don't know what I want anymore, guys. I really don't know what I want. But no, I mean, I guess, so just to preface this, the only thing that I miss about my old job, as the only thing, because my old job sucked, was for the last, like, 3 years straight, and coincidentally, that's about the time that I've been at Pixelbit, I've been able to stream all of the press conference stuff at work, because I just had, like, my laptop, because I worked by myself in an office, and I could do my work while having the laptop hooked up to my 3G connection, and just, like, watch all of the E3 coverage for the last few years. And I'm really missing that this year, because, like, yesterday, I got, like, a little bit of news from Twitter during the day, but not a lot. That was really just, like, on, like, lunch breaks and stuff. Like, on my lunch break, I watched the last 20 minutes of the Microsoft press conference. And then I didn't get to do anything else until the Sony press conference, which was actually, I felt so bad because we had our game night. And so I was playing Pathfinder with my laptop on the table and, like, one earbud in my ear, half listening to our DM, and then, like, between dice rolls, I was paying attention to, like, Adam Boys and stuff like that. So it was kind of a weird way to, like, experience the Sony press conference. But I just want to say, like, just, you know, off the bat that I'm a little bit ill-prepared for this show. I was hoping to, like, do a little more research right before we started recording, but that just didn't happen.
You know, the Pie in the Sky predictions, though, Julian, for a second there, I thought I had it because Bungie came out like with PS4 like right away, and they had like the big build up, and the guy who was out on stage was like saying stuff like, so they are like the embodiment of what we feel like Sony's PlayStation experience should be, and like they stand for everything that we do. I was like, the next step is we bought them. No.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, no, I couldn't have possibly.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. But no, you are right. That like I think there's definitely, especially after this press conference, even though Destiny is multi-platform, it sure does seem like a PlayStation 4 game. But we'll start with Microsoft, and like I said, I saw the last 20 minutes, and I got like a little bit of the Twitter buzz, and since then I've gone back to watch a couple of the trailers, but like, have you guys had a chance to watch any of it, or?
I watched the whole thing, and it started off so predictably.
Guide me, Angelo.
Well, it started off with, guess what? Just guess, you know what it is.
TV? No.
Oh, well, okay, that's a good guess. Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah.
So, first thing was Call of Duty, the next thing was Forza, both of which I was like, to be honest with you, Call of Duty looked neat because it was like a futuristic, almost sci-fi-ish kind of bent to it. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and just for the record, like, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 had, you know, like, part of it was set in the future, and that was like some pretty interesting stuff, so being someone who's not burnt out on Call of Duty because I've only played 2 of them, I actually wouldn't mind playing another Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's not something I'm super hyped for, and it's not an exclusive, so I feel like no matter what I get, then I will be satisfied because eventually the game will be there, and I'm not one of those people. To be honest with you, I play those games now for the campaign because the multiplayer is just toxic to me.
Oh, sure.
So I'll just wait for it to come out on whatever platform I want to play it on because it's not an actual exclusive.
Everybody just like wants an eye opener though, and I don't understand why either Microsoft or PlayStation didn't start off with like an original IP or like at least like a big sequel coming and be like, wow, yeah, that's what we got. Instead, they just like built it up over time. But I actually didn't even see the whole any of the Microsoft conference because I was at school working and stuff while it happened. And then later that night, I was reading all this stuff on the internet, and I didn't see like except for one comment on like Kotaku that said like Xbox totally won, and then they listed the games because it won. It was like Call of Duty, Sunset Overdrive, which does look cool, and I did see if we could talk about. But like besides that, I don't know. I didn't really see much, and everybody said something like they focus on games, and maybe you guys can touch on that, but I did see that the final count was like Xbox 20 and PlayStation 19.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for both companies, like, the motto this year was safe. Because I think both of them played it very safe, and it was interesting that they almost seemed identical to me as far as, like, tone, because it definitely seemed like both of them were like, game, and then there were, like, certain things that each of them had, like, we're going to talk about it later, but, like, I think it's funny that each company was, like, making a big deal out of, like, we have this, like, really obscure Japanese game that no one's going to buy because nobody bought any of the other ones, but we're going to make a big deal about it here because the hardcore are watching, and it's like, that's cool, guys. Like, how's that going to work out for you? Probably not too well, but I mean, I would say that I think Sony went a little harder than Microsoft did on non-gaming stuff. I was a little surprised about that. But, you know, from what I could tell from the Microsoft press conference, they had a good showing. They didn't have the come-out swinging, we need to really get on top of this type of show that I thought they would, because things are a little worse than I thought, because apparently last month, Wii U outsold the Xbox One. Now, granted, that's because of Mario Kart 8, but still, it's a little disconcerting for those guys. So I expected them to be a little bit more aggressive than they were, but, I mean, Angela, you can definitely speak to it, but it seems like they were showing some pretty solid stuff, if not mind-blowing, then at least, like, oh, you know, that looks like I'd play it.
I think so. I mean, not any... It was weird. Like, I think I've pretty much fallen out of the Microsoft camp as far as what their target audience is. And a lot of that stuff kind of just sort of reinforced that, except Sunset Overdrive looks neat. I especially love how they opened it up. Did you happen to see that part?
I got to see part of the trailer, but not all of it. But it starts off where it looks like typical like meathead shooter, right? And then
and then it just explodes into color and the guy being ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, that's fantastic. You're trolling Microsoft at their own conference again, and that's kind of great.
That also, real quick, that seemed to be a recurring theme that I was getting from people is that a lot of the games had actual color to them, which, and I've complained many times on this podcast that the last generation was a bummer for me because there were so many games that were just like brown the game or gray the game.
Yeah.
And, and it's like, and like I said, like the world doesn't look like that. So it definitely seemed from what I could tell that even some of the grittier games had color to them, and then the more fantastical ones like Fable like just look beautiful.
That's actually really why I like the Sunset Overdrive trailer though, because they started out all gritty and like dark and stuff. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? And all of a sudden the main character comes in like, whoa! And he's got all the color and stuff.
I'm sorry, how did he come out?
Whoa!
That's pretty much it.
With the worst hairdo known to man.
I kind of feel like that new McDonald's Happy Meal mascot would fit into that world quite well, actually.
I know not of what you speak, but okay.
Oh, just Google it and you'll know.
Man, but at the end, like I looked at some comments and one was like, man, what's with all that color? I'm like, thank God of all that color. And then there was someone else right underneath it where they were like, yeah, it looks cartoony. And then the next person was like, why does it all look cartoony and stuff? And the last person goes, I think it's because they're trying to make it look cartoony.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because I'm really at this point where I don't want them to use all these amazing graphics to make everything look super realistic. I'd rather them just make something that looks convincing in the tone of the world that they're making, and more than that, I would prefer for it to look like interesting. So, I'm definitely all for that. And I mean, there's definitely, and we'll probably get into it as we go on in the show, but there were definitely some cases where I would see things like, wow, that is pretty darn impressive. And I know they're going for like super realistic, but I'm impressed. Mm-hmm. Stuff like The Witcher or Far Cry 4, or even like retreads like The Last of Us is like, okay, yeah, that's kind of impressive.
I'm actually a little bit, the Fable Legends game doesn't look like my thing, but I'm a little more optimistic about it, oddly enough, because I think Lionhead has come a little bit more under control, if that makes sense.
Wait, are you suggesting that they're better with Molyneux gone?
I might be.
You get off my podcast, Angelo.
My joke, you're going to hate this even more. My joke used to be you can go in your backyard and dig a hole and plant a turd there, and 5 years later you'll have a new Fable game.
Have you played the Fable games?
I hate them.
Really?
I do.
Man, I love 2 and 3. They're both flawed. Like I feel that like 2 was a really good game that had a lot of flaws, and then 3 worked on a lot of those flaws but made a whole new set of flaws, so it just kind of made it evened out, so they're kind of the same game.
I didn't even try 3. I got to be honest with you on that one, because after 1 and 2 I gave up.
Wow. No.
Sorry.
Okay. I will say that Fable, this one, and it's probably, I don't know, I'm so not a multiplayer guy, and so a lot of the stuff is it looks really cool, but not for me. And Fable's one of those where it's this big, you've got a group of 4 that are adventuring together, but then you have a 5th player who's the villain, who's actually almost like the dungeon master. Yeah, I think that's a really neat concept where he's setting up traps and enemy encounters and stuff like that. I'm wondering how they keep it from just being I'm just going to throw the most powerful stuff at you constantly, but
just by looking at it, it looked like there were points set on the map so that you couldn't just dump everything into one spot. Like you had a limit to how much you could put in what. I imagine it's points based or something, kind of like a tabletop game where you can only put characters of a certain value in certain areas.
Yeah, and I would hope that there's something in there where it's well, here you have to put a treasure chest because you haven't put one in a while or something like that to give players incentive to explore. But I think that's really cool. It's just something that even if I had an Xbox One, I probably wouldn't play. Because I'm a lone wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing. It doesn't look like the kind of game I'd play either. If we ever get to talking about it, neither does Assassin's Creed Unity, because I don't believe that it's capable to get 4 people on the internet together unless you know them very well and have them work together that well.
Exactly. Like The Division, every time they've demoed that game, it looks friggin' phenomenal, but they also demo it with people who are have like this very good like rapport with each other, and they're like, oh well, you go up here, and I'm going to do this, and let's change our abilities, and blah blah blah, and from what I can tell, that's not the way that people play online.
I've actually found the opposite one in Final Fantasy XIV, though, because when I'm trying to get into a dungeon, a lot of the people I know are at different levels, like not as high as me, or they have higher gear than me sometimes, and like also other times they're just not always on the internet. So like just because of the good matchmaking that you can get into a dungeon with, actually sometimes it's not that good, but in theory, if it were good, I think like it might actually be better to just do it with strangers, but you'd have to get really good at matchmaking before that like is fun, because they'd have to be able to put you with similar kinds of people and levels and like personalities, I would even hope eventually. But yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like in something like Fable or The Division, like unless it was somebody that I ran with all the time and was comfortable with that, it's like my thing is I'm just not going to talk. And so then I'm the dude that doesn't talk, and then that's when the people are like, why aren't you talking, fag? And it's just not a good experience for me.
Right. And then when you do talk, they're all like, nobody else is talking, and you feel like the only person talking, then that sucks.
Right. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, and there's a whole episode I want to do about multiplayer and my problems with it or my inability to do it, but that was kind of a bummer when I would see games like Fable or The Division or things like that, where it's like, well, that looks like a really cool experience that I'll probably never have.
That's actually a plus for me, though. I'm getting more into the multiplayer recently, and I'm liking all these local multiplayer games. So the big announcements like that are fun for me, but at the same time, you want a lot of single player. I've just played a lot of single player in the past generations. And now that it's accessible, stuff like Far Cry 4, where you're going to be able to drop in without anybody else having the copy of the game, that's just like no one can pass that up, you know?
I gotta say that's a pretty big like thing that Sony dropped, just like kind of casually, like, oh yeah, you can play multiplayer with your friends, but they don't even have to own it as long as you have a copy. It's like, what?
Oh, and they're like, crazy. Oh, yeah, Microsoft can't do that.
But
can't or won't.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Think so. I mean, you got to understand that they basically built the computers that everything runs on, I mean, the operating system for them. If they wanted to make everything work together, they could, but they don't.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why. I mean, not to get off on a tangent again, but that's the reason why like stuff like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV aren't coming to their systems, because they have such a weird lockdown on their service that they don't want to communicate with anybody else. So it's kind of a walled garden that they've built for themselves.
And again, it's not impossible because they got Final Fantasy IX on, or not 9. Whoa. No. Whatever.
Pitchforks from fanboys everywhere just trying to get you off the internet after that comment.
That and Fable. I've got everybody mad at me now. Oh, here, let me just get one more. Let's irritate him that much more. I've got a bunch of copies of Drakengard on my desk.
No,
Drakengard 1, 2, and 3.
I think that would probably engender you to them again, and I'm just going to look at you and shake my head. Cause
I want to try them. My wife was nice enough to buy them for me.
I didn't expect all this scathing personality today, Angelo. What's up?
I don't know. Big glass of haterade before I got on the show, I guess.
Beat me to it. But let's continue on Microsoft. So, I mean, we talked about, did they show, was it just a trailer for Sunset Overdrive? Was there any gameplay?
No.
There was scripted gameplay. It looked like there was a part where they ran through like an amusement park and did stuff, but it looked very scripted. It was probably gameplay that they pre-recorded. I don't remember if the guy was holding a controller or not. I don't think he was.
That actually seemed like kind of a theme throughout the rest of the day, though, too. Like, people in the Order also thought like that was all scripted, but then they're like, "What? How could you do something like that? Because you have to be shooting in the same way." So I don't know. They might be doing some tricks, but a lot of the graphics that people like, there's no way that could be in game. Like, people have already found out, have been like confirmed as in game, so it's possible it was just like a different camera angle or something.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between in-game and in-game but scripted. Like, I'm really curious what Sunset Overdrive actually is as far as like the moment-to-moment gameplay. Like, and I think there was also a lot of stuff where, this surprised me, where it seemed like, oh no, we're just going to show you some really pretty CG trailers. And it's like, but guys.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Sunset Overdrive was half that and half pre-recorded gameplay, but it looked very Ratchet and Clanky. Very Ratchet and Clanky.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, there is no problem with that.
The only problem with that is that it's an Xbox One game.
And it's not Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also, and I guess we can talk about it here a little bit, because I mean, I'm getting the impression, because last year was a friggin' phenomenal E3, and I'm starting to realize that part of that is because they announced stuff way too early, because they showed that stuff again this year, and it's like, oh, you haven't even started this game yet, have you? Like, you showed your hand way too soon. Like, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead, but like, it disappointed me when like the Mirror's Edge 2 thing that I saw was literally just like concept prototyping that looked not any better than Mirror's Edge 1 after that really cool trailer they showed last year, and it's like, oh, there's not even the beginnings of a game here yet. Like, you've done some character art and like a couple like prototype levels that somebody could have done in Unity just as easily. Like, that's worrisome to me.
Yeah, or when they showed Powers and there was just concept art.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, well, this is coming out in December. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it better not. We're still
I don't even think they're trying with the release dates. Like, they're just throwing a release date out there. Yeah, holiday of this year.
Well,
and whatever.
On the few things that are this year, because it seems like everything is happening in 2015. I guess I should be thankful that it's such a slow year this year, because I haven't really had time to play games, so maybe I'll actually finish the ones that I do buy, because nothing's going to be coming out. We get like 5 more big games between now and the end of the year, and everything else is pushed into 2015.
Yeah, and it's like nothing till September.
This is a great E3 for 2015, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so weird, because normally with E3 it's like, this is the stuff that's coming out holiday, and then there's also going to be like this handful of stuff that's coming out to be determined next year. But this has been like almost like, I'd say probably a good 90% like 2015 stuff.
No.
It seems that way. Like, because a lot of stuff has been pushed too, because I think didn't Batman get delayed?
Yeah, but
next year?
Batman looked like one of the best out of all of them. Oh my god, that vista. And you could just swing down into it, and when you hit the ground, that Batmobile coming out from the side, just like for you to jump on top of and into. Oh.
I don't like the Batmobile in that game.
And Scarecrow looked fantastic.
Yeah. Yes. And the vista is it is amazing. I just hope, because there was so much stuff in that little bit that they showed where it was like, this is the same damn Batman game, isn't it? Like, just certain things was like, I like these games, but I haven't liked any of them nearly as much as Arkham Asylum, and it's been like this like slow, steady like descent for me, where it's like, no, I'm not feeling it as much anymore. And
I like City more because of the story. It was just so much better, I thought. But for this one, I actually like the Batmobile, and I'll tell you why. A lot of cars that really frustrate me, especially in Grand Theft Auto, when you're going really fast and you hit something, you have to like always back up before you can move on. But in this, you could just strafe to the side and keep going. It's like sort of a pinball even, or something like that. And not only is it practical in the game, but it's also probable that Bruce Wayne would figure out something like that, because he has unlimited funds, and if it's possible, he's going to put it in the Batmobile.
My only counter to that is that it looked a lot like the way the vehicle modes handle in the Transformers games from Half Moon Studios, and they never felt right to me. It's like there's something weird about being in a 4-wheeled vehicle, and then instead of doing like a handbrake turn, you actually literally like circle strafe around something. Like there's something about it just doesn't feel quite right. And I also feel that it's a little bit lazy, because it's like, I almost feel like, and I could be wrong, but my impression is like, we just took like the Arkham City again, and then like added some stuff to it, and instead of like trying to design the city in a way that the Batmobile would make sense, we just kind of shoehorned the Batmobile in, and we're just going to have it to where when you get stuck, you can just like kind of strafe around it like a hover tank. I don't know. It's weird to me. And there's also a point to be made about, why do you even want to be in the Batmobile when you can fly? Which is another problem I have with those games, because Batman doesn't fly. But it looks really gorgeous.
He was like gliding like a squirrel suit or something like that, I thought. And even if it is like the same Arkham Asylum game or something, they made that game at least twice as tall.
That's true, yeah. And again, that one little shot of the cityscape before he jumps off of the building was really phenomenal. Like, draw distance is one of those things that will definitely impress me with new hardware. Another example is like Far Cry 4. Like there's that part where they show like the mountain off in the distance, and I was like, that's really pretty. That is really nice. So.
Yeah,
Far Cry
when
4
you
looked
say that,
really
I want
good.
to talk about. Sorry.
I was going to say Far Cry 4 looked really good in every press conference it was in, which was like 3 of them, wasn't it?
I know it was in Ubisoft. I know it was in Sony. Was it in Microsoft?
Was it? I don't remember if they had both or if they just had Assassin's Creed. I don't think. Maybe they didn't have it.
And
they did. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to forget about it because it's so forgettable, but I just thought it was so funny because this is the part of the conference that I actually started watching. But they bring out Ken Lobb, and if you don't know your history, like Ken Lobb is kind of an amazing dude in the video games industry because he was like one of the first people to work at Nintendo's Treehouse, back for like Donkey Kong Country 1. But he's also like one of the co-creators of Killer Instinct, and he's the dude that has guns named after him in 2 different video games. If you have the Clob from GoldenEye, that's named after Ken Lobb. And it also makes an appearance in 2 Human by Silicon Knights. So he's got like all this legacy and stuff, and they trot him out for and I guess he's been working at Microsoft for a while now. And they have the Killer Instinct logo, and I'm like, oh wow, are they going to do something more with Killer Instinct? This is cool. And he's talking about how he loves bringing back like beloved games from the past, and this is another situation where I thought my pie in the sky thing was going to come true, where they were going to resurrect like some like nostalgic franchise from like the original Xbox, and I was kind of right, but it's Phantom Dust, and I recognized it right away because I worked at retail, so I know what it is. But nobody bought Phantom Dust.
I don't even know what that is.
Nobody cares about Phantom Dust. There was like 3 people in the world who were like, "Woo, Phantom Dust!" It's some weird like it's like an action game, but it uses like kind of a card game mechanic to like do some of your attacks and stuff like that. There was a similar game that came out on the GameCube. That was more of a fantasy RPG that kind of did a similar thing. But I don't get it. And they made like a really big deal about it too. And it was funny because like the audience was like, there was like no reaction.
Which is weird. That game also has a super weird story, if I remember correctly. I didn't play it. That's the thing.
Nobody did.
And I love my super weird games, and I did not play that game.
I would have been more excited if they brought back Otogi or Breakdown, because at least those, I feel like those have like a bigger like following than friggin' Phantom Dust did.
I love Breakdown. I've talked about Breakdown before. I really like that game.
You vomit up a cheeseburger at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same kind of down, but they brought down Crackdown.
I think that would have gone over way better if Crackdown 2 didn't exist. Because I feel that sequel deflated everybody's love for that first game. But that trailer looked interesting because it like, even though it was again one of these situations where it's like just like it was just like a video trailer, like it didn't show any gameplay. The ideas present in that trailer were kind of cool. Where like they have like the one agent like driving the big truck that's like has like a whole bunch of explosives attached to it, and then he like drives it into the like stronghold they're trying to get into, and then you have one other guy perched with a sniper rifle, and he's actually the one that starts off the chain reaction. Like that stuff could be pretty cool. But again, I just feel like nobody cares after that sequel because it was such a tone deaf sequel to that first game. Mm-hmm. But they did say that like the creator of the original game is working on this one, so maybe that's all it needs. I did really love the new gameplay demonstration they showed of The Witcher 3. That's still one of my most anticipated games. I thought that hunt for the Griffin was really pretty fantastic.
I just don't know how to play that game. I still can't beat it. Like the first level or two in the second one.
Yeah, I haven't actually played the second one, and I've heard that the combat's really tough on that one, but I think they're trying to make the third one a little more accessible, so we'll see. But I don't know. We'll get into it in like next time we do a regular episode, but I'm kind of at this point where I think I've found out that I'm kind of over open world games, but as I was watching like E3 stuff, I think the problem is I'm over the concept of open world games in a modern setting. But if you give me open world in a fantasy setting, I'm all for it.
You're gonna really like tomorrow's topic.
Because stuff like Witcher 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition, like those really appeal to me. Far Cry, I mean, even though it's modern setting, like you're kind of in a wilderness situation, so I feel like you have more of a sense of discovery. Where in something like GTA or Watch Dogs, it's like, oh well, there's buildings and there's street corners and there's cars and I know how this works, and I kind of don't want to do it.
Everything you're saying makes me want to just talk about Zelda, but we have to wait.
We do have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to wait. New Toyota.
Did you hear what they're doing with the Master Chief Collection that they're doing for Xbox One? Because I think that's really smart.
The fact that, well, I mean, it's all 4 games, like the 4 main games.
All 4 games with their original multiplayer intact. So if you want to play Halo 2 multiplayer, you will play Halo 2 multiplayer, not Reach multiplayer tacked into Halo 2.
Okay, that actually, because that's what the fans wanted. I know that was the problem with Anniversary Collection.
And that's really smart because you cannot play. Halo 2 multiplayer was a big freaking deal. And you can't play it anymore because they axed the original Xbox. And I don't know if you remember the stories, but people, they couldn't shut down some of the servers because there were people that refused to log off.
Yeah.
And they were playing Halo 2.
I think it went for like a good 6 weeks or 2 months after it was supposed to be shut down.
It went for way longer. I think the only reason is one person's a couple of them overheated, and it was a whole bunch of stuff, and eventually they were just like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's pretty cool, and I mean, I think it's a good value, because I'm sure it'll just be a $60 game, but you get 4 games in there, and they're adding achievement, well, obviously Halo 1 and 2 wouldn't have achievements, so they're adding brand new achievements for that, it's going to be a full 1,000 for each of the games.
Yeah.
And I think Halo 2 is also going to be doing the graphic swapping that you could do on Halo 1 Anniversary, where you can go and look at it, in its crafted glory, and then
the way they explain it is it is the original Halo games, just they retextured and remapped everything a little bit. So you push a button and you can see the original game underneath it.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Another thing is it also comes with the beta for Halo 5, which is another big deal. If I had an Xbox One and I was still playing, again, online games, even if I wasn't, I'd get this. I would absolutely get this.
Well, sure, and I mean, just from the sheer, bent that, with so little coming out this year, that's a lot of game right there for $60.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and they're making a big deal over indies now. It's they're playing Sony's cards from the last conference, and Sony is playing Microsoft's cards from the last conference. It's kind of funny.
See, you're not the first person I've heard say that, but I feel like Sony, other than them talking about their TV stuff, which didn't take up that much of the conference, I felt that it was still very they were hitting it pretty hard with games and stuff like that. I appreciated that the Sony stuff, there was a big part of it of them getting feedback from fans and trying to show they were trying to give people what they want, because that's kind of what they did last year too. Is they're like, hey, we've listened to you, and look, the system's $399, and blah blah blah. I thought they were capitalizing on that still,
yeah.
And I think that there were just a couple things where it's well, this doesn't really need to be here, but I still feel that the overarching theme for them was games. So yeah. I feel like they were kind of they were both on a level this year. I don't think
it was, but I feel like what happened was it was a chess move for a move that they expected Microsoft to make, but Microsoft didn't make it. It wasn't really what they wanted the focus of their conference to be on, but they said if Microsoft is going to also make mention of this in their conference, let's at least have an answer to that. And then Microsoft never did it.
The only thing they really, I thought, slipped up on was when they were everything's better on PlayStation. It's you don't have to compare yourself. You can just be yourself at this point. You're already listening to the people and everything like that. But for some reason, there was a perception that they didn't maybe give enough information about their games or something like that. And I think that was because they had that lull in the probably second third of the conference when the guy was talking about the camera and the Oculus Rift. The new, everyone said Jack Tretton would never have done that, and it would have been half as long or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, I feel because I think the conference was 90 minutes long, and I'd say they probably spent 15 or 20 minutes talking about stuff other than games, but that's still a lot of games. So I didn't come away from it being oh wow, they really dropped the ball on that. I came away from it being, and this was actually the true of all day, is I came away from it being, oh well, that's a lot of interesting, good-looking stuff, but none of it interests me.
I was happy with
none of it interests me,
and it interests me a lot of those games. But I was like sort of blown away in some of the respects. Like with No Man's Sky, I was the most blown away, definitely, with the persistent world that was infinite and had dinosaurs in some of the planets, and everybody starts at a different planet, and it's all made by 4 people, and it's seamless to go from the world to the sky back to the world. Like, that was crazy. But then I looked, and it was 20 games to 19 games, so I was like, it was even.
Yeah. And again, this is kind of, like I mentioned earlier, it's like, I really don't know what I want. Because, like, on one hand, I say I want new IP, but then they show me new IP, and I'm like, oh, well, not really interested in that. Like, No Man's Sky didn't do anything for me. The Order, I thought, looked really good, but, it's like, well, I know I'll play that, but it's not like, oh, I can't wait to play that. Same thing with, like, a lot of the Microsoft stuff, where it's like, oh, well, that looks like something that I would definitely play if I had an Xbox One, but none of it makes me wish that I had an Xbox One. But then it's like, and then I say I don't want sequels, but then I keep saying, like, man, where was, like, the new God of War, and where was, like, Mirror's Edge 2, and the new Mass Effect, and blah, like, it's like, I keep wanting sequels, but I'm like, no, but I don't want sequels, but I want sequels. It's like, I am the worst gamer.
They at least said we could play Ascension on PlayStation Now, and I have to play that, and I gotta play, Ground Zeroes, which is going to be on PlayStation Now. So, like, during that beta time, I'm really hoping it's free so I can try out both of them, or at least Ground Zeroes, because I don't really know if I need any more God of War. It's just the same square, 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 triangle, square, or something.
Well, see, I guess my thing is that I was hoping for, because I think that new generation is a good time for them to, if they want to continue franchises, like, reimagine them with, like, something completely new. So, I mean, obviously, like, Uncharted 4 is just going to be more Uncharted, but, like, I could totally see a new God of War being like, oh, well, here's, like, a Mayan god, and, like, do something totally new.
Uncharted is going to be the last story, so it could be, well, it looks like it's the same kind of story, and it's the last one, and I'm like, now I know why Amy Hennig left, because she has nothing else to do.
I mean, I don't know, a lot of people left after her, too, so I'm thinking there's something else going on over at Naughty Dog, and maybe part of it is the fact that they're having to do an Uncharted 4, because I don't know. That's just that right there seems like the publisher saying, well, we need you to do Uncharted, and they're like, but we're done with Uncharted. It's like, no, you're not. Uncharted 3 made too much money.
They're like, fine, then this one says it's the last story.
It does.
Until they do Uncharted 5 with like, I don't know,
gray hair Nate.
No, like one of the female characters or something. I don't know. But then I guess it would just be Tomb Raider. So I don't know. I guess we can kind of move on from Microsoft, right? Like,
unless you wanted to talk a little bit about Scalebound, but there wasn't real much to talk about. It was just a trailer. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, well, I will say just really quickly that I think it's really funny. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and now that I'm older, I kind of look at a lot of the E3 from the business side of it and more than the gamer side of it. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, I'll see stuff, it's like, that's a terrible idea. Why would you waste money on that? Like, Phantom Dust. Or the fact that, like, I love Platinum Games, and I love them when they were Clover Studios back in Capcom. I think those guys are amazing. Those guys do not make games that people buy. Like, I'm sorry, they don't. Like, Beautiful Joe didn't sell, Okami didn't sell, Bayonetta didn't sell. I mean, people bought them, but they didn't sell at the levels that you need in order to, like, make really good profit on these games. They're incredible games, but they're incredible games that don't make money. And it's like, it's really funny for me that they have 2 big exclusive games on the systems with the lowest user base comparatively. It's like, oh, we're going to make Bayonetta 2 for the Wii U, and now we're going to have this exclusive for the Xbox One, which is not selling as well as the Wii U. Mm-hmm. And it's like, do you guys just want to go out of business? Like, I mean, I don't know how well Metal Gear Revengeance did. I don't think it did as well as previous Metal Gears did. So there's that too. It's like, as much as I love those guys, like, they need to be in a place where they really have a chance to make a hit. And I think the only way that they can do that is to have all of their games on every system that you can get. And then you might actually turn a profit.
I don't understand, because these are good games. I mean, they don't make bad games. They make good games.
They make fantastic games. I mean, but people, maybe they're just too quirky or they don't get marketed right. I mean, I could definitely make a case for Capcom not knowing what to do with those Clover Studios games where they didn't really give them, the opportunity to shine like they could have. But yeah, it's like, and so when Kamiya came out there and he's like, talking about his brand new game, I got very excited. And then when he said it's exclusive to Xbox One, I was like, womp womp.
Yeah. I didn't see that coming, though.
Especially because Microsoft isn't like the Japanese game, system. So that's even weirder. But the trailer, I mean, again, it's like a big CG trailer, so whatever. But like, I did like the fact that it had a very clear Kamiya / Platinum Games attitude where you have this like guy, with a cool suit of armor and a sword, and he looks kind of afraid for a second at this giant monster, but then he just like grins like Dante would do or something, and then proceeds to kick ass because that's what Platinum Games heroes do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is this may actually, like, a lot of times I hear exclusive and I see a game like this and I'm like, oh, what that means is it's exclusive for a little while and then the other console's going to get a version.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that because Platinum Games don't do that. Platinum Games kind of stay where they are. Usually, and I know, like, Bayonetta 1 was, like it started on the 360, and then they did it for the PS3, but that was, like, a really bad port that wasn't done by them, mm-hmm.
and, Metal Gear was multi-platform, but no, you're right, and I mean, obviously, like, Bayonetta 2 is being published by Nintendo, so very unlikely that would go anywhere else.
Right.
So it could remain an exclusive. I think most of the stuff, I mean, obviously the wording at the Sony conference, when they would say, like, console debut, exclusively on PS4, that means in 6 months it's going to be on Xbox One, so.
With the DLC included.
Right.
I was going to say that about the console debut. I was noticing a lot of rhetoric by Sony trying to make it seem like they might have had a little bit more exclusivity than they really do.
Oh, they both do that.
Yeah, usually, I mean, like last year it was mostly Microsoft that did that,
mm-hmm.
I thought, like the more original IPs seemed like they were going to be from Sony, but now it's like the other way around. It seemed like Sony had to fill the games a lot with something that they were going to have for a little while, but I mean, who knows how long? 6 months, a year at the most? Like,
if that, yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I mean, I understand. I mean, these games need to make money. It's more expensive to make games now. So I understand, like, that eventually they're going to have to be on everything, and that's fine. I mean, it's like I said when Titanfall was announced to be exclusive for Xbox One. I mean, I'm going to play Titanfall 2 on my PS4. I'm sure of it. So, I will get to play that game eventually, but like, I think it does, and again, going back to the whole console war thing, like, it is kind of cool to see them, like, really fighting to get that exclusive. So, like, I think it's really cool, and I'll probably totally forget to do it, and I'll miss out, but like, the fact that, you can sign up for like a weekend-long Destiny alpha test,
mm-hmm.
like, this weekend for PS4, like, that's pretty huge. It's like, that game's not even coming out till September. And, like, you can go ahead and, like, try to play it this weekend on the PS4, and Xbox One players are going to have to wait until probably the end of the year to get their hands on that. So that's pretty nifty.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, was EA after Microsoft, or was it Ubi?
It was, but quick shout out to Ori and the Blind Forest, because that game looks neat.
The game does look neat.
Gorgeous.
And again, going back to the whole colorful thing, like, there were definitely a lot of those games that were, like, really beautiful to look at.
But that was it. I mean, I don't know anything about that game other than it's a really beautiful looking platformer, but I wanted to shout out to that, so.
All right. I guess I'll just cut that and I'll just say, like, so yeah, like I said, it's a rough episode, so Patrick just stepped out to eat, but I think me and Angelo are going to continue on with EA for a little bit. I guess I kind of just want to talk about EA mainly more for BioWare than anything else, and also Mirror's Edge, because again, way too early that they showed that stuff.
Yeah, everything said, like, conceptual prototype on it, except for the sports stuff, because if they don't crank that out every year, they lose.
Right.
So.
Well, personally, I know it would be like a big hit to their bottom line, but I have said for years it'd be really cool if they would, like, take a break from Madden for like a year or two to give them time to really iterate on it and make something new, because they just don't have time to really, fundamentally change those games, because, I mean, they're on a year-long, I think it's like an 18-month development cycle, so there's just no way. But,
yeah.
But no, I guess, where was it going with this? Like, too early. Oh, yeah, I've got to get on and kind of yell at, our very own JD and our fan favorite, or our favorite listener, Michael117, because, I told them if EA announces, like, Mass Effect, they need to tweet the hell out of me, because it's the only way that I'll know. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I started getting these little notifications on my phone where it's like, it's happening, it's early, but it looks gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited because of Mass Effect, like, I had to ban myself from talking about it on this show for a while because I talk about it so much. So the first thing I do when I get to game night is like a go to game trailers, which was also folly because game trailers has really dropped the ball this year. But so I ended up going to YouTube looking for this like Mass Effect reveal trailer and came away. I mean, they have nothing. They literally have nothing. Like it was just them talking about what they'd like to do, and
they don't even have like prototypes of anything. They have like prototypes of some of the environments and that stuff, and it's like doesn't tell me a thing.
Yeah, and also like they were saying like they were showing like a day-night cycle for the game, but I don't think what they realized is that in that same thing like they were talking about Mass Effect for a little bit, but they were also talking about a new IP that BioWare was working on, and I think that's what they were showing for the day-night cycle from that new IP. So that wasn't even stuff from Mass Effect. Like I think the only like Mass Effect stuff was like you said there was like a couple like pretty rough looking environmental renders, and then there was like a Krogan that like does a little roar or something, and they showed like some concept art of like N7 armor and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, I'm glad to know that they're making it, but I kind of already knew that they were making it because they said they were making it. So I really wish that if that's all you had to show, just leave it till next year. Just right. Like, and going back, I mean, Patrick would have something to say, but like what they showed for Uncharted 4 this year is really what they should have, like, that's what the first thing should have been. Like what they showed last year was literally just like Nathan Drake talking over a title screen. And it's like, why even bother? Like, they should have just shown this and then announced like, oh, here's Uncharted 4, and people would have been really excited. But instead it's like, oh, okay, we already knew that it existed.
But the thing is, the thing is they wouldn't have a press conference because, I mean, if you took out all the stuff that was like that, you'd have to pull out Star Wars Battlefront because that wasn't much of anything either. Dragon Age Inquisition is the only thing that looked like it had something, but it still didn't show you any gameplay. It was still just like, all right, that's nice.
Well, I will say that I did seek out some gameplay from the E3 show, and it looks pretty freaking phenomenal.
Oh, is it on the show floor playable?
Well, I believe it's so, but this was like a demonstration, so I don't know if this is from the show floor, but it showed like a party of 4 fighting this really big dragon, and I mean, it's definitely action-y, like Kingdoms of Amalur or Dragon Age 2. I've heard that you can actually pause the action and assign stuff like you could in like the Mass Effect games and Dragon Age 1, so I'm excited to see that, but I mean, it still seemed really tactical because this dragon had like, you could attack its head or its various limbs, and they all had like separate hit point values, and it was constantly moving. So it seemed like they were really like having to change up their tactics on the fly constantly. So that all is exciting to me. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic because I am worried that it's going to be too much of an action game and not enough of a role playing game. But they are going back to the whole choose your character from scratch. You can choose your sex and your race. And, it should affect the story depending on what type of character you're playing. And that's what made the first Dragon Age so amazing. And it was kind of disappointing for the second one where really only your class mattered, but like you were always just Hawk. So, that wasn't as exciting a thing, but
yeah.
I mean, and that's also coming out this year. So like, that's something I have to look forward to because there's not a lot this year to look forward to. But yeah, so I am excited about that. But yeah, I was really let down by the Mass Effect stuff because, man, but you're right. And the thing with Battlefront also is like, maybe they shouldn't have let us know that Battlefront existed last year. Maybe they should have waited until this year.
Yeah. And then what was the other thing that they showed that was kind of like that? They talked about Downgate. Was that what it was called? That MOBA thing?
Oh, I didn't even hear about that.
And that's it, because they just kind of talked about it, and they talked about how they're working on it and how it's a big deal and this, that, or the other thing.
And
I don't really know.
Epic, I mean, they showed off Fortnite, like, almost 2 years ago, and they weren't even at the Microsoft press conference, and it feels really weird to not have not have Epic showing off something at a Microsoft press conference. So, I think this E3 so far, it's been the most noticeable thing for me is what isn't there. And I don't know if it's just because, like, games are tougher to develop for now, or if it's just because people weren't quite ready last year. I don't know. It's a really weird situation. So,
yeah.
And then again, I think we mentioned Mirror's Edge, but yeah, like, that's not a game that exists. That's an idea. So, who knows when we'll ever play that. And if they haven't started it now, I think by the time it comes out, nobody's going to care. So, that's a bummer too.
Yeah.
And they didn't really announce much in the way of new stuff for EA, did they?
Well, I mean, there was. Well, I guess you could talk about Battlefield Hardline, but everybody kind of knew that was coming.
Well,
or the weird PGA Tour game that was with the exploding golf course.
I'd rather play Cyber Tiger for PS1. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think they also, I mean, because they made I'm such a EA defender from the last generation, because I really feel like when Riccatello was there, they were really trying to make new things, and they didn't really succeed all the time, but I feel like they got burned so many times in that generation that we're just not going to see a lot of new stuff from them this time. I think they're going to play it safe with their sports stuff, and then the occasional, sequel to something that people love, like Dragon Age or Mass Effect.
Yeah,
Pretty excited.
I feel like it's a little weird that they're pushing Battlefield Hardline when Battlefield 4 is still broken.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the thing is that it's also like a different setting and it's a different developer, but it also makes me sad because it's visceral, and I'd like to see them do something that isn't a Battlefield game.
This isn't really quite a Battlefield game. This is more like Cops and Robbers, but like cranked way the crap up.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit in some ways, but it looked so realistic that it had that Battlefield like tint to like their take on something. Yeah, I was thinking I actually really liked the showing for the sports. E3 was pretty good.
Patrick? Angelo? Oh, crap. Are we back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were talking about sports, Patrick?
Where was I?
You had just started talking about how you were impressed with the sports showing.
Yeah, well, E3 was pretty kind to FIFA, at least, in EA's press conference, and they announced a lot of new information that piqued my interest and makes me want to buy the next one instead of wait a year like I usually do with sports titles. It has a deeper AI system, and that's always been my main gripe. That's not how players act sometimes at the end of the game when you're up 6 goals and they act the same way. They don't have a lot of swagger or something like that. They actually seem like they want to lose at some point. And they just give up a goal or something. If it looked like they gave up on defense or something like that, it would be awesome that it conceded it that way, but it just doesn't, because the AI doesn't change from one moment to the next. It's just always the same kinda. And unless they decide to do something great for once, then they'll do something sensational here or there. But in the new version, it's going to be dependent on whether or not you have the ball, whether or not you've had a lot of possession, and how they're passing so far, and how their confidence is going up and down. And it sounds like each one is their own RPG character or something. But obviously it's not that deep. But
I wish they'd bring back EA Big. I really loved the EA Big games.
That would be cool.
I'm not even a sports fan, but man, I love me some NBA Street.
And now in this new version with the new technology and being able to do more, they could have even crazier stuff happen, like a train come out of a basketball during the special or something.
Yeah, well, and EA, I mean, they don't get enough credit for how robust their create a player is in Tiger Woods and stuff like that. And the EA Big games just missed out on that. So getting to that'd be awesome.
Ooh. Create a player actually reminded me something about a Sunset Overdrive that I wanted to say. Maybe that's the deal with the Mohawk, half-hawk thing. Maybe they are created players, you can change some certain things, but he has the same mouth or something like that.
Let's hope. We can only hope.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps up EA. And then Ubisoft. The only stuff I know about Ubisoft was I feel like it was stuff that we already knew. I mean, it's there's another Far Cry and there's another Assassin's Creed. And I'm sorry, but because of Chappelle's show, I can't say Assassin's Creed without going, Unity!
Yeah, yep. Absolutely. Vandal Hearts was one of the new things, right? That was kind of neat, but there wasn't anything there except a cutscene.
Vandal Hearts?
Valiant Hearts. Wow.
Oh, okay. I was they brought back
No, I
Vandal
did say
Hearts?
Vandal Hearts.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
say Vandal Hearts. That was a slip there. I meant
Yeah, I think
Valiant Hearts.
Okay, no, I don't know anything about that.
It was just a cinematic they showed. Apparently it uses their what do they call it? Their Ubi art engine, and it's set during World War I, which I find kind of fascinating because I know a lot of stuff about World War II, but World War I's they're really quiet on that because there wasn't a whole lot of video back then, right. So it doesn't make for good TV.
And trench warfare isn't necessarily as exciting and compelling as moving forward in a field of battle. So
no, but it apparently sucked more than anything that has ever sucked before.
Well, yeah, the worst. Too. Yeah. With all of the violent trailers that we saw so far this year, you'd think that they would be killing to do a trench warfare World War I game because it's so brutal.
Oh, you know what? I haven't been actually made uncomfortable in a little while, but that decapitation during the first Assassin's Creed Unity trailer that they had at the Microsoft one, where they had that dude's head, I was like, ugh.
I didn't see that. I was pretty blown away / impressed at that Sub-Zero, that Scorpion fatality on the Mortal Kombat 10 gameplay where he removes part of his spine after he makes a hole in his chest, and then the heart just plunks, it plops down. It's that's vivid.
What does it say about me if I found it really brutal right up until the heart dropped, and then I found it hilarious?
That's one of
the joke.
Okay, good. So I was worried I was broken for a minute there.
No, go ahead, Patrick.
They had a fatality like that at least in 3 or 4. I'm pretty sure. I remember it ending that way, and it turns to a black screen, and the heart's still pumping or something like that.
Yeah, they've gotten pretty ridiculous with them. I think the difference here is that the graphics are so vivid that it's a little disconcerting at first. But I saw the Huffington Post say the first trailer for Mortal Kombat 10 is so violent it's uncomfortable, and I watched it and I was like, what's wrong with you people? This is so tame. Did you not play the last one?
It's the first time in the series though you can actually use the sides and the background to your advantage. They did it before with their DC stuff, but they have never put it in a Mortal Kombat game before.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're doing some new stuff. Swinging on the trees was really cool. I think, Angela, like you mentioned on Twitter, those 2 new characters are pretty unique looking, especially the girl riding the giant. Yeah.
Oh, I was the opposite. I thought the bug lady was what is that?
Oh, see, because there's a character in the new Killer Instinct that is very reminiscent of her, so I wasn't as impressed with her. I was much more impressed with the little girl riding the giant, because that's such a unique concept where it's the giant is flinging her as a projectile, and she's doing double team attacks and.
Yeah, but wasn't there something similar to that in one of the Golden Axe games where there was a dwarf riding a giant or something?
Yeah, that Golden Axe game that nobody played in the arcade.
I know what it is.
Well, yeah, because you've done research, but
yeah,
it was such a small release that nobody remembers that.
Yeah.
But I did think about that.
Nobody really remembers it, but is having a new one. It didn't get announced at E3 as Gauntlet Legends, but I saw that the new Magica looks a lot like that, except more fun. That commercial was so funny.
I love that.
That trailer was
that trailer.
That one gets a slow clap for me because that was really inspired.
You blew up the cat.
That was some pretty good stuff.
That was the most ahs that the blowing up of a cat ever got.
Yeah.
And I have not looked at anything Assassin's Creed because I really feel that I think for me, the only reason I bought Assassin's Creed 4 was the setting because I thought the whole pirate thing was really cool, and I wanted a launch game for my PS4. But I really think after playing it for 30 hours and not finishing it yet, I think for me it's just going to boil down to if I care about the setting. And I just don't care about the setting for this one. So I'm just maybe I'll beat Assassin's Creed 4 by the time Unity comes out, and then, wake me up when they go to Japan or something, because I don't know.
It's French Revolution, right? I don't look at anything Assassin's Creed for the exact opposite reason. I already know I'm going to play it, so it can just all be a surprise when I eventually do.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to say something about Valiant Hearts, Angela. I really like the way that they're going to tell that story. I just don't want to forget about it now that we're talking about everything there. And the 5 different stories in Valiant Hearts come together in a certain way that they said will be each incredibly different. But it reminds me of the Bridge of San Luis Rey because they have different chapters each devoted to a character, and they all come to the bridge and the bridge collapses or whatever. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. You'll have to read it. But let's hope it's like that and not like Mixology, which is a terrible comedy that does the same thing.
Okay, I just looked it up, and this actually does look really interesting.
Yeah, I just wish there was some gameplay, because I get the idea behind it. You really need to hear the audio, and it's like they're really going to go for the emotional pull, I think, which is cool. And I think, oddly enough, that weird cartoony art style will work for that, because it did work in the trailer.
Yeah, because it disarms you initially, and so then you're not prepared when it gets like serious.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, that looks really cool. Speaking of, because I don't want to forget about it, because I don't even know what it is or what it is or who makes it. But did you guys notice towards the end of the Sony press conference they had like this like really big montage of games, and there was this one that they showed where it was like this vast battlefield, and it looked like a fantasy game with just like hundreds of troops on the screen. Couldn't tell what it was, but it looked really cool.
It's a new Drakengard game.
Shut up. No one caught it, or no one knows what that is. I don't know if I missed an announcement or something.
I didn't see it.
They were showing a bunch of Vita games and a bunch of PS4 games, and like they didn't say what any of them were, and they all looked kind of cool, but that one especially stood out to me. I have no idea what it is. No?
Yeah, check that out again.
Okay. Anyway, also I thought, because I think Dead Island is like one of the most boring games I've ever played, but two, that Dead Island 2 trailer was like one of the grossest things I think I've seen. Like, I really didn't like that trailer.
Me
At
neither.
first, I was like, really excited for it. I was like, oh my god, there's like a zombie game where you like have the bite already and you could turn into a zombie and like turn back if you had like a cure or something, or like a temporary vaccine. This is gonna be so cool. And then I was like, oh, Dead Rising 2 or
Dead Island
2. It's not even gonna play like that at all.
Yeah.
No. I think that particular group has pretty much established the fact that they do not care about being classy.
Well, and the only thing that would give me pause, and I noticed this, and you're going to hate where I got this from,
It's all right.
Angelo, but I noticed that Ian Miles Chong was tweeting that apparently the developer is Jaeger Studios, and they're the people behind Spec Ops: The Line. So that's the only reason why I would give it any more attention than nothing, because that is kind of weird. But
except Spec Ops: The Line wasn't exactly successful, so they might not try something clever like that a second time.
Right, we have we're going to do a backloggers on it eventually, but also there's the fact that I feel like that Spec Ops was going to be something a lot more special until the publisher was like, no, you've got to put some shooting in here. So, but I don't know. I just had to mention those two things because one of them, like, I really could not care less about it. Dead Island 2, but then hearing that Jaeger's on it, would give me pause for a little bit, but that's about it.
I didn't like that trailer.
And I'm assuming no Beyond Good and Evil 2, right? There was no.
I didn't see a talking pig anywhere, so no.
And no Prince of Persia 2008 2.
No.
No. Damn you, Ubisoft.
No Last Guardian.
Oh, I mean.
Yeah.
It was weird, right? Because I was thinking. Because my pie in the sky was that it would be there and it would be awesome and blah, 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 and it's coming out this year. But in reality, I don't think that is a game that exists in playable form.
Everybody was holding on to that sliver of hope. Everybody, I think.
Did it get officially canceled today? Did I hear that?
No. That was a rumor.
No, there was a rumor before the show. But I could have sworn that today, I heard, that somebody said it got officially canceled. And I wasn't sure.
Wouldn't that be the best troll ever, though, if, IGN did that thing, and then they said, nope, it hasn't been canceled yet, and then IGN had to apologize and do everything back, and then a week later they go, okay, we're canceling it.
Yeah, I mean...
That's kind of great.
What did Kaz say, though? You can't cancel a game that never existed?
Yeah, and, I don't think it exists. Same thing with Final Fantasy 15. I don't think there's a playable version of either of those games. I think they're just a bunch of pretty images that they put together. And I have not been proven wrong yet because, neither of them have been shown in playable state. And it's been years. So.
Yeah. But I don't have to see anything in a playable state to get excited about that new Ratchet & Clank remastered game because I can't wait to go back to the first story.
I know you can't wait to talk about the movie either.
Oh, yeah. It's all glorious.
I was a little, disappointed in the quality of the animation because it didn't look much better than any of the cutscenes from the games, which, don't get me wrong, the cutscenes in the games are fantastic.
Yeah.
But I was kind of expecting, at least Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs quality of animation, And I didn't really see that in that trailer, but I'm going to go see it because I love Ratchet and Clank, and you know.
Yeah, but I was like, I knew it would stay. I knew it would be like a Pixar movie, and now it is a movie. It's finally come true. Everyone will know the Ratchet and Clank universe.
Now the question is, because it sounded like the actual voice actors, but I can't fathom that they would like not try to fill that with like, you know, who's a bunch of losers that do a bunch of like the CG movies. Like you'd get like Jack Black and like,
ouch,
Pinkett Smith.
No, I was thinking more like Snoop Dogg and who are the ones that are always like. There's a bunch of people that are always in these, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, Channing Tatum and you know George Lopez, and you know it's like, okay, yeah, I see
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is a little bit. If he does one of those, it's because he wants to, not because like it's funny.
Because he's awesome. He could so be Ratchet.
I want Samuel L. Jackson to do one. I'm not gonna lie.
But like,
yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't because he loves getting paid.
I know.
Oh no, he did Incredibles.
He did?
Yeah, he was Frozone.
Oh,
where's my super suit?
Right.
It's like it's the only funny part of that entire movie. Yeah, I said it.
I kind of like the way that story was told. But back to Ratchet and Clank, I really actually do like it. And my realistic reason for liking it is because there's like kids who like don't know Ratchet and Clank at all, and they have Xboxes, and they're about to upgrade, like ask their parents for Christmas, and I like really want them to see Ratchet and Clank the movie first, because then they'll be like, oh, I made a mistake. If they find out afterwards, like, man, I should have bought this system that has the games where I could play that.
The only thing that I worry about the Ratchet and Clank movie is that it does really well, and then Insomniac is stuck making Ratchet and Clank movies till the end of time. I mean, not movies, games. Because as great as those games are, it's like, you know, I kind of want both them and Naughty Dog to do something completely new, like every generation. And they kind of kept Ratchet and Clank going for 2 generations. I mean, they had Resistance, but, you know, I like the idea of them making new things. So that's the only thing that would worry me, is that, you know, Sony would be like, oh, well, you are now making these all the time.
At least like this time they'll actually make money off of like something hitting it huge, instead of like this Spyro Skylanders thing, which like I feel so bad for them for, because they can't be getting that much, you know?
Well, Skylanders is like freaking massive.
Yeah, but it's not like them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they don't see Apricot 1 from those sales.
Yeah, and Spyro was their guy.
Yeah. Because I don't think even Sony owns that. I think it's, oh, no, wait. No, yeah, that's Ubisoft now.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but like they must be themselves there.
By the way, do you think Ubisoft got the email about Kinect being dead? Because I think they might have not shown so much Kinect stuff if they did.
Did they show a lot of Kinect stuff?
They showed Shape Up and what was the other one? Just Dance 2015?
Probably. I mean, because come to think of it, like Microsoft didn't really show a lot of Kinect stuff either, right? It was like Dance Central.
No, they did not. They brought harmonics out for all of 2 seconds with like very little going on around them to say something about something, and then they went away. I don't even remember what it was. That's how bad it was. Like literally this. I feel like they have been slowly kind of easing. Well, not slowly. Like they all of a sudden said, okay, Kinect isn't included. So then they bought the coffin, you know, and then I don't know. Then they freed up the processor space, so that was them opening the coffin and knocking the thing out, and then they just nailed it shut on the press conference without even talking about it. So
yeah, I was listening to the Giant Bombcast today. It was the episode they recorded last Thursday, but it didn't go up until today. And apparently Jeff Gerstmann had gone to see the new Dance Central game at Harmonix, and then the next day was when it was announced that the Kinect was going to be taken out of the Xbox package.
That was hilarious, the way they edited that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is.
They were just like, well, people have them now, so someone's going to want to use them. Maybe not everybody, but the people who bought early are going to try to pretend like, oh, there's a reason.
Yeah. I guess we should move on to Sony, because we need to get this wrapped up. But
yeah, we do.
And we have talked a little bit about them just as we've gone on, because I think, well, Patrick, obviously you were ecstatic the entire press conference.
Oh my God, yeah, more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't even touch on a lot of the exclusives that they showed, like we said a little of The Order, but not really. Little Big Planet. Oh man.
I like the way The Order looks as far as like visual setting and everything. I just worry about it being, bland cover-based shooter. It seems like there seems to be a lot of potential there. I have to see kind of how that shakes out. I haven't given up hope on it yet.
I was impressed with that gameplay demo because it seemed to have a really good sense of pace, where, it wasn't just like a guy running up to a waist-high wall and ducking behind it. Like, there was like this tension building, and then almost like a Resident Evil 1 style reveal of this monster, and you see it like grow and twist in front of him, and it's switched from like cutscene to gameplay like seamlessly.
And it seemed like a very intelligent monster, which is kind of nice, because I expected it to be zombie-ish or something, or beastly-like, and it seemed very human smart. So hopefully there's some good AI going on there to back that up.
Definitely, yeah. And I also liked that they took a couple cues from Quantic Dream, which, just a quick aside, no Quantic Dream either, so I was really upset that they weren't there. But where you had like some QTE things, but they were kind of integrated really nicely into the actual like presentation of the game, and it seemed like they were using them smartly. So stuff like that I really like, and I mean The Order I was really impressed with, especially the look of it. It was just like, I don't know, I didn't come away like excited about it.
I liked it more before I listened to like the post conference for GameSpot, because they were like picking it apart. It seemed like when one guy is turned around and shooting the large monster and he's running away, they figured there's no way that this can't be like a on the rails kind of like interwoven movie or something like Quantum Dream, because they were like, how can you do that in the game? It would never be like that. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe they just put the camera there for like the cinematic nature of it or something like that, and you can actually move the camera better and you can turn around pretty easily like that and run backwards. That would be pretty awesome, and maybe like a new thing we haven't had in another game so much.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come away from that thinking that I felt that was total like legit gameplay. Like, to be fair, I wasn't 100% paying attention because I was playing Pathfinder, so I might have missed something. But when I was watching, I was like, I totally believed it. Like, I didn't feel like they were like trying to like dupe me or anything. So
the one thing that was hilarious though was when like the guy's falling over and he has to press triangle to get up, but triangle's like blaring in the middle of the screen and it's like right on one of his buttons or something like that. And it's like not that hard of a thing to do, but when you're like near death and it's like taking a lot to get up, you should like have to do more, like at least move the joystick a lot or something like that, So press triangle, man.
Well, yeah, but that's what I was saying is like I like the way that was integrated into the scene. Like that's what like they did with like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, where I thought that it worked really well in the scene. It's like I've talked a lot about QTEs like here and there, and it's like I like them, and especially if you can integrate them, well into the gameplay. So it didn't bother me. Like I'm interested to see more, but
I just wish they would like think about what buttons you should be pressing for certain QTE, because like it should be like something where like a motion where you have to kind of get up or something like that to actually get up,
Yeah, I mean, because that's definitely something that they could learn from Quantic Dream, where in a situation like that you would want to like be moving the sticks instead of pressing a button.
Yeah, or like there's the motion sensor, right? So
yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but like apparently like when you're playing Aliens Isolation on PS4, like you actually use the motion in the PS4 controller to bring up your motion detector, and like I think the glow pulses with the actual thing on the screen, so that excites me.
That'd be pretty great.
What I would actually do is use the touchscreen on the PS4 and like motion up, so like you're actually trying to push up for something while the guy's trying to get up.
That could work. Yeah, that would work. But I don't know. Patrick, remind me of stuff that was there, because a lot of the stuff just didn't wow me.
What do you think of Little Big Planet 3? Because I thought it was, just the right amount of cute and like just the right amount of new. I liked there was, now there's in addition to Sackman, we have Sack Bird, we have Sack Hacky Sack. No, not Hacky Sack. We have
they had names. It wasn't Sack this and Sack that. It was like
we had Potato Sack. Sack Dog.
Dog Sack.
I really didn't care. Like in fact, when they said it, was like, I kind of visibly like kind of slumped in my seat, and I was like, aw. And then they just kept on showing Little Big Planet 3, and I was like, I don't care about Little Big Planet. Stop showing it.
See, I do though. I love it, and they're having all the different levels from the first two, which is like an insane amount of levels, and there's so many good things that people have made that like are just way different than Little Big Planet in its entirety. It's just like the actual basketball games, like shooting games that you could play with Sackboy in the second one, stuff like that. And people do so much crazy stuff. It like is not even a platformer anymore once you play the user-generated levels. And these ones look like so much easier to make now. I'm impressed.
One of the things that made me a little nervous was one of the complaints I've always heard about the Little Big Planet games is that the jumping physics feel off, like the characters feel kind of floaty. Mm-hmm. And then when I watched them playing it, I noticed at least one of them, possibly two, they were having, the people demoing it on stage were having a really hard time with jumping. And I was like, maybe they didn't fix that.
Every time that I see somebody play Little Big Planet, I can just tell that it doesn't control well. Like I can feel it just by watching.
It's part of the charm, though, and I'm kind of like hoping they don't. I don't. But, like, there is a hard trophy in the first one that's like complete every level without dying in the story mode, and that like took so long because of the floatiness. But once you have put in as much hours into that game as I have, or as many hours into that game as I have, you kind of get the floaty nature, and it feels like Princess Peach from Super Mario Brothers 2, you know?
Or you just like get Stockholm Syndrome. Just like
oh yeah, sure. But that game's not about like life and death for me. It's about like having fun, trying to create the funniest character to die with, honestly. And he makes such funny animations that like when you die, like you can like make fun of him with like a sad face or something like that, or press down twice and then his mouth's opening like he's crying. It's just it's silly.
Yeah, I'll give you that. And to go completely 180 from there, just because it popped in my head real quick and I don't want to lose it. Metal Gear Solid 5 looks dark.
Yeah.
Oh man, like
that trailer.
Wow.
So good.
Like,
yeah.
I need to finish Ground Zeroes because I want it, like, I don't even know if they explain it, but like, what the hell does Big Boss have sticking out of his head? Like, there's like, it looks like shrapnel or something, and like, he's definitely looking more and more like, you know, your CO from Metal Gear 1. Like, he's really not resembling Solid Snake anymore, or Naked Snake, or whatever.
Somebody told me that the snake in that game is actually called Venom Snake, not Solid Snake. I know I heard that somewhere.
Oh.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be Solid Snake because it's Big Boss, but
right.
I thought they were just still calling him Big Boss in this one, but the only thing, and again, like, going back to, like, predictions, like, I gotta, like, you know, I gotta eat my hat, because I really, really thought that the end of that trailer was going to have David Hayter going, sorry to keep you waiting. Because I really do feel the story of that game is going to be like the first encounter between young Solid Snake and, you know, grizzled Big Boss, but maybe that's not what this is. It just looks really like going to a place that series has never gone before.
Yeah, a lot of that looked gruesome. Some of the death and the torture, I was like, whoa, am I watching Zero Dark 30 or what? Like,
yeah, right.
And the blood mask, like, where it just like flashes from him, like, with like ashes on his face to like covered in blood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dark enough, like putting like cremated ashes on your face. That's like some Kratos stuff.
Yeah, that was definitely something I was like, wait, no, what? No. And then it just got worse from there.
Yeah. And once again, wishing that I could have like completed like Portable Ops and Peace Walker, because I didn't play those games because they're so multiplayer focused. But
you know, Sony was doing that throughout the whole conference, though. They would go really charming to like really realistic and like dark or something. Like they did it another time when they went to Bloodborne.
Ooh. Yeah, you know what's funny? When they announced that game, I thought they said blood porn, not Bloodborne. And I was like, oh, that kind of works.
Blood porn would be the name of a game, like, in some sort of, like, TV show that's, like, lampooning people that play video games.
Yeah, probably.
Like Hotline Miami 2, maybe. It's like a mini game.
Right.
Hotline Miami 2? Where did I see Hotline Miami 2? Was that in this, or was that in the Xbox One?
It was here because they announced a big partnership with Devolver Digital, which is the publisher of Hotline Miami, among other things.
All right.
And all the games they showed, it was like me saying, like, yeah, this looks like a bunch of, like, 16-bit inspired indie stuff. Like, I don't care.
There's just that one puzzle game, but besides that, it was like, I have Mercenary Kings, which is basically Broforce.
Yeah.
There was comparisons for other games. It was like nothing really new, but then I thought to myself, oh, these are the guys they bought. I mean, they didn't really buy them, but they rented them for a while.
Yeah, I mean, the indie stuff, like, both companies were going pretty hard on them. I think Sony went maybe a little harder. And, like, I know, Patrick, this is where you and I differ because you were pretty, like, stoked on a lot of the stuff. For me, it was more of, like, I think I've just come to realize that if it's a digital game, I'm probably not going to play it because what I do is I buy digital games and I forget that I own them. And then I get, like, some big disc game that I actually complete. But I will say that Abzu looked pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and how creative and interesting is it to go underneath the water? We haven't done that much in any kind of game, and now this is going to have such a large scope. You could see it from some of those big whales that, like, the person paled in comparison to, that it's going to be like a journey, to the center of the earth maybe, or like at least to the depths of the ocean floor, hopefully. I'm hoping we could get some submarines and stuff, or deep sea diving, so...
I would love to start seeing, like, some prehistoric stuff down in there. Because, yeah, I mean, I've said before that, like, marine stuff is, I think that's much more interesting to explore than space, because there's just so much weird stuff down there, and it's also, like, one of the creepiest things for me is when, you're just, like, alone in the water and there's something like Megamouth that comes out of the darkness. So that stuff looked cool, but I probably won't play it. I didn't play Journey, so.
Oh, yeah, I definitely will play it.
I'm just curious. Now don't get me wrong, I think Grim Fandango is really cool. Where did that come from?
Well, that's one of Tim Schafer's.
Oh no, I know what it is. I'm just saying, like, where did this whole idea of let's get Grim Fandango on PS4 even come from? Like, talk about stuff coming out of left field.
Yeah, I don't know. The way that they set it up was pretty funny.
Oh, but,
yeah. If it had been Full Throttle, I would have, like, started clapping because I freaking love Full Throttle. But I'm very, like, inexperienced with Tim Schafer's stuff. So Grim Fandango is like, oh, all right. Thought the game looked dumb when it came out, but you people seem to like it.
It was in the section, though, that was about, like, listening to the people. So, I mean, they must have seen that, like, more than anything, people were writing in for more of that, and that they wanted it. I don't know.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, it's got a big, like, fan base. I would say, like, the only thing that would have gotten people more excited is if they said they were bringing Day of the Tentacle, to PS4, which I would have been excited for that because I've always wanted to play Day of the Tentacle, but I didn't have a computer that could run it back in the day, and now I don't have a computer that can run it because it's too powerful. But,
right.
I loved Maniac Mansion, and it was basically the spiritual successor to that, so that would have excited me more than Grim Fandango, but, it's fine. It's cool. I actually thought they were going to say Psychonauts, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I guess we should talk a little bit about, the whole PlayStation Now stuff, because it sounds cool, but it also is not what I was expecting, because I guess I thought they were going to go further back in the catalog than PS3. Like, I kind of was expecting them to talk about a bunch of PS1 stuff. But I guess it's just PS3, or that's what they're rolling out with? I didn't quite get that.
I mean, maybe they're just showing off that stuff, because I'm seeing a lot of other stuff that was announced for, like, PS3 on the websites where you can find every game that's been announced was not in the conference at all, and so there's probably stuff that they just didn't feel like they should put in because it wasn't as wowing in terms of graphics. Sony's about the graphics.
as am I. But I was impressed that, like, a lot of the stuff they were talking about was, like, I mean, Dead Space 3 just came out last year, Ground Zeroes just came out a few months ago, and I got really excited about being able to play Ultra Street Fighter 4 because I think it's coming out digitally before the disc, and I want to buy the disc, but that's not until August. So being able to play it on PlayStation Now beforehand is, like, a really cool concept. So I was impressed with it. Like, I'm going to be curious to see how, because I still don't understand if it's a streaming service or if it's just like a download and use until, I don't know how it works, but it sounds interesting to me. Like, I think it's definitely a nice feather in Sony's cap. But I also we were fighting a boss at that time, so I wasn't really paying super close attention to the PlayStation Now stuff. So I guess neither were you guys. We're getting tired.
I mean, I have enjoyed it. I think I'm going to be a part of that beta, hopefully, if it's free, and I wanted to play a couple of those games. I never played Dead Space 3 because I just got done with Dead Space 2 when the third one came out, and then I didn't buy Ground Zeroes because I thought that was a cash scam, and I wanted to get it when it was packaged with something else, or I don't know what. I just have been waiting up for it, and it looked like that's on PlayStation now, and that's, crazy, right?
Yeah. I also wonder if it's going to take the place of the existing existing games collection, or if it's going to or make it irrelevant, or is it just going to fit next to it very nicely, or how it's going to work?
People were saying $3 or $20, and then I was thinking to myself, yeah, it sounds like a Netflix thing, like $20 a month and you get to play all the games or something. But everyone was thinking $20 for a rental, that must be like a 30-day something. I'm like, oh, if it's that, then it's not nearly as good.
Oh, see, I didn't even catch that. I thought it was just going to roll into your PS Plus account or subscription, like it was just going to be part of that. Huh.
The PS Plus subscription was Powers.
Right. Which I am, don't get me wrong, I'm super excited if that show actually exists because I love Powers, and I'm excited to be able to, sort of share it with people in the sense that, I read Walking Dead, and then it was really exciting to see people, watch the Walking Dead TV show and get really into it. And, for me, it's if Powers could be that, that'd be really cool, but I just feel that, it's already been canceled, twice. I think HBO was going to pick it up and they didn't, and then FX was going to pick it up and they didn't. So I don't have faith that show is going to be a thing. And also, if Katie Sackhoff isn't playing Dina Pilgrim, I'm kind of not interested. And she's doing Longmire now, so I don't see that happening. Because she's perfect for that role.
I won't argue
okay.
that.
This is exactly like that part of the Sony press conference where it's just
I thought even when that Brian Michael Bendis came out there. I mean, it was fun to see him, but he wasn't the most charismatic. Well, he was pretty good for being a writer. He was reminded me of Truman Capote or something like that.
He's definitely gained a lot of weight since the last time I saw a picture of him, that's for sure.
Yeah, but that suit fit him, and it was really nice looking. So, and he spoke really well and made me think yeah, I have read a ton of comics that I really liked when you wrote. So
yeah.
I have faith that it'll be at least told well.
Yeah, and I did like the fact that he said, he didn't really come out and say it, but he said that it was going to be true to the theme or to the content of the comics, and I was like, there's going to be violence and cussing and nudity in here, awesome. He couldn't actually say that, but that's what he meant because Walking Dead is a little bit neutered, compared to the comic book simply because it's on AMC and not HBO.
Right.
But I guess we'll kind of wrap it up, do closing stuff because we're gonna get back on here and talk about Nintendo and some third party stuff tomorrow. But I don't know, it's I was saying, it's I saw a bunch of stuff and I thought it was good stuff. I thought it was stuff that people are really going to enjoy, but most of it was stuff that I just am not interested in playing or not excited to play, and that kind of bummed me out. So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. I haven't watched the Nintendo stuff. I did hear, the stuff that they announced sounded pretty cool. I have yet to look at it, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't even want to, get into it yet. But, I think at this point I'm more excited about third-party things that I haven't heard from yet. I want to hear more from Square. What do they have at their booth? I want to hear what Capcom's doing.
I think I already saw something you'll be very excited about what Square's doing.
Do tell.
What is it? Final Fantasy Type 0?
Oh, they're finally bringing it out?
Yep, for PS4 and Vita in HD.
See, I was wondering about that because I had read an interview about almost 2 years ago from the very fancy strategy guide for Type 0 in Japan, where the producer had said that they had it running in HD. And I just assumed that they were going to put it on PS3. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I've heard that game is pretty good. I've heard it's really tough.
It's got my attention. I don't know. I probably won't be able to get it right away because I'm not going to get a PS4 right away, but, it's on my radar.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is just landing on my radar, but it doesn't even matter because it's not coming out until 2015 at least anyway, so.
And probably still before Final Fantasy 15.
And then it'll get delayed.
Wah, wah, wah.
Luckily, until then, they can listen to this.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, and hopefully you did enjoy listening to this. I apologize again for the rough nature of it. Because it's just going to be what this is. This is how the show is before I do all of my editing magic to it. So maybe you'll appreciate what I do from this point on. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that's going to do it for this E3 special, and we're going to have another E3 special. Angelo, are you going to be able to join us, or am I getting a guest?
I don't know.
Okay.
I will let you know very soon.
Okay, I might try to lock in a guest then, maybe JD or something. But regardless, you'll definitely get me and Patrick.
You know what? Go for it, and I'll send you an email about what I'm thinking. So
okay,
do that.
And so you can join us again tomorrow for more E3 goodness, and let us know in the comments what you're thinking of the show so far. Maybe you share my apathy, or maybe you're more excited like Patrick is.
Real talent.
But yeah, that's going to do it for this special. So thanks again for listening. For myself, Patrick, and Angelo, keep it pantsless, Internet. Good night.
No, I mean it, though. I mean, we are talented. That's how they're going to see it this episode, guys. We did it. We did it!